Hello and welcome from the Bristly stranger. You may notice that this isn't a game. I have been asked a little bit about different tips and tricks for making YouTube videos, and obviously my knowledge isn't that extensive. I did have a look at some editing when I was at school, but things have changed quite considerably since then. I am using Audacity, let's move that to the front, to record my voice, and for the game I'm going to be using OBS to record. Now normally when I start playing I load the game first, but today I have done something slightly different just to record this bit for us. We're going to be playing Battle Brothers, we're going to be recording that for Friday. I'm going to do the kind of edit bit alongside that. Let's jump into the game and I'll show you what we do before we start. Okay, so the game is running now. OBS is only recording the game and no longer the desktop. One thing I do before I start recording as like a marker, because the sound of my voice and the picture and the sound of the game is recorded separately, what we do is we have a little marker. So normally what I do, I start with Audacity and I hit the record button, and then I move over to OBS, and as I hit record on there, I say record with my voice, which is picked up on the start of the Audacity file. I'll show you a little bit later when we move on to the editing of how that kind of syncs up. Another thing that we can do to make sure the voice and the sound are the same, we come up to the options and we say options, and then we've got the options at the top and we go audio, control, gameplay, OK. Now in film terms they have a clapperboard, and to get the sound and the kind of picture lined up they kind of say scene 33 or whatever, action, and the clapperboard. And as that sound goes along with the picture, they know they have to balance those two up. I'm going to show you in the editing process how to do that, but for now we are all synced up and ready to record. Okay, so I have finished recording my video now. I do need to clean the audio files up though. So I was a little bit keen, so I've had to put this little placeholder video in. First of all, we find a nice dirty bit of sound, so I can see that I'm not talking because there is not a lot of wave file, and we highlight the entire section. Now that will tell Audacity that the whole bit of selected sound is actually unwanted. We can also chop that bit off because we obviously don't want it, and then we're pressing Ctrl and A to select the entire file. We are then going back into Effect and Noise, and we're telling it to reduce the noise. This is going to take a varying amount of time. Obviously, the longer the sound file and the dirtier the bit you're trying to remove, the longer it's going to take. I normally run this through twice, that way it gives you a nice, crisp, clean sound. If it's only a small file, I'll go through and check it a third time just to make sure, and then maybe even take the little pauses for breath and things like that out. Obviously, I've not done that too much on this one. The main thing to remember when you are selecting your dirty bit of sound, hit the Get Noise button and then highlight the rest of it that you want to remove that noise from. You can obviously delete bits, but it is much easier just to choose that selected area and then reduce the actual sound to the entire file. Once that's finished, you can then export the file to be used in your editing program. So obviously very simple, just going into the file, going into export, and we're exporting it as an MP3 file. We don't need to fill any of the details in. You can call it whatever. I normally call it a shorthand for whatever video we're doing. That way it's easy to remember and easy to find the actual file I want. So now we are ready to edit once we've finished recording. We are doing our Battle Brothers one, so we need a project name. I call our Battle Cult by a shortened name, as I did before, BC. It is episode 30, just to remember what it is. That way all of our files are matching up. We can then start. In my little folder, we now have a BC30 just here. It's only got one file, and this is the save file, and it's got nothing in it. What I like to do is drop all of the files we're going to be using into here. So there we go, we have got the Audacity file, we have got the OBS file. To install them into our timeline, we just literally drag them onto the main window up here, and then we are dragging it below like this, and that puts it into a video timeline. Now the video timeline has got picture and sound on it. We will do the same with, or in fact before we do that, we need to open up an audio one, and then we do exactly the same, drag the audio file, drop that to the bottom. We can hit home to go back to the start. Because it is a longer file, it just takes a little bit of while. We need to get them to match up now though. So as I described before, we have to balance up our sound, which is the bottom row, with our video. I've already managed to do that, so if we hit play, we can see that in action. It will be me literally talking as I did earlier. I think this is about the right options, and we say options, and then we've got the options at the top, and we go audio, control, gameplay, OK. And as you see, we matched it up quite easily there. It can be literally dragged to the left or right just to balance those two. Normally, I'm not talking quite as much, so it's a lot more pronounced. You can see like this peak here would be on its own, so I would perhaps say options there. I would leave it a little time and then say video, graphic, whatever it is, corresponding with what's going on the screen, and that way you can balance and make sure that the picture is matched with the sound. So now you've queued it up, you need to find the start of your video. So actually, this is a little bit longer, but that's because I did the other bit to do the behind the scenes video. So about here is going to be a good place. We are going to cut just there. We are pressing S to do a cut on each one, and then I clicked on the other band to cut there. Now if we hit play, hello and welcome from the Bristly stranger. That is going to be the start of the video. Now anyone that is a regular viewer will know that Battle Brothers doesn't start just with me saying hello and welcome. We start with a little animation. So the thing that we do with that, we need to get rid of this bit because we don't need this, so we will just cut that. We'll go back to the start. We've left a nice big gap, so we need something to go in there. So it wasn't actually pasted in, I forgot to go and get it, but I have already made a little introduction. I do this as a separate video because it's a lot easier. You can do it ahead of time. It's about 11 seconds. Again, we just drag this into the window. We get the preview. We drag that to the bottom. We do want it at the front, so we will remove it. That way we've got no gap. It just goes straight into the video, as you can see, just like that. Now we want the bit with the introduction to mesh up with that. So we right click here and we remove. Now this will just balance these up. Of course, we want the sound to appear in the same place because we took all the time to queue them up. So we drop our little video file down to here. It becomes just audio and nothing else. Then we will remove. They are both carefully balanced. Now what we do is a first pass. So as we're looking at it, we can see that this is me talking about various things. There is an obvious gap in the dialogue. Now this could be just me talking, obviously, but no. It's definitely, it has cut from one bit to another. So we can see that this, for want of a better word, is another scene. So I'm going to hit the shortcut for S. If you don't want to do it by shortcut, you can use the icon on the screen, which is to split, just there. That does exactly the same. It's much easier to use your shortcuts though. So this bit here, this is going to be our first section. We don't want this bit, this is cut. Obviously that is literally just a few seconds, but all of the little seconds add up, and it can turn an hour-long video into quite a short one. I mean, the more time videos are normally an hour of unedited footage that go down to between 30 to 40 minutes, depending on what it is. We do need to do the first pass on the entire thing, so we can see that there is another bit just here where I carry on talking to be able to take these goblins on. I'm talking about goblins. We are then going into the fight. Now, we come over a little bit more. We can see that I'm starting the fight. Now, complete behind the scenes footage. I did this fight, and it went fairly well, except we had an injury on our tank character, and we had a death on our super sniper James. Now, ordinarily I would hate to save scum, but at the very end, if we can scroll to the end of the battle, now there you can see Joe actually survived his death, but James didn't. We then go on to the victory screen, and we got loads and loads of loot. But the problem was, I forgot to click on this middle icon to pick up all of the loot. So it was all just thrown away in the bin, and I decided that was a complete waste. We'd got a legendary item, we'd got loads and loads of treasure. I couldn't face losing that, so I did save scum. So yeah, there we go. Okay. We've got the reload. This will be the start of the battle. So I'm going to cut it just here. We don't want any of the loading screen. We don't want that loud noise there. So I am putting the marker to about there, and we're going to cut it on both. Now all of this is pretty much wasted footage. Now we did have to fight the battle again. We will scan through. There might be a few little bits where I've had to pause it to either answer the door or anything like that. We cut all of that nonsense out. I'm going to continue my first pass, and we will cut out the big chunks. I'll leave it blank like this so we can see. But yeah, I'll come back when I've finished. So there we go, the unedited footage. We've got to the end. It's an hour and 21 minutes. We can actually zoom right out with this. It does take a little bit of time to re-edit, but we can see all of the breaks. Obviously, we've got one big fight here. We have got another fight here. I think this last fight was a little bit broken up, and there will be a little bit at the end. Obviously, these bits are quite a few seconds long, but they look so tiny because we are so zoomed out. We will be removing all the gaps. We might even be removing part of the fight. So as we're zoomed in, we can see the gaps a lot better. We're coming back to the introduction. Now, we've got it paused on the screen, so this screen's not moved, but it's a little bit broken up as I'm thinking about what I'm saying. Now, I don't overly like that gap there. So we've got me breathing just there. We're actually going to make this whole thing a lot shorter. We can actually say remove, and it will line it back up where it should be. Still got a little bit of the breath there. I don't know if we can hear it. Hello, just a little bit. We can either cut that and just take it out entirely by lifting it, or if you're a little bit worried about these not being level, we can add a filter to this little bit just here. So this little bit just here, we're going to mute it. There's no intake of breath just before I say hello. Hello and welcome from the Bristly Stranger. There we go, a little bit of a long pause there. Not too happy with that, so we're actually going to crop that down a little bit, removing that one and just shuffling it back up. Now when we try it, we're back with Battle Brothers, and I've headed back to town. Our squad is all healed up, and we've found some more goblins. So I think the review of this bit, it's pretty much what I wanted to say. It didn't take long. The reason I'm doing behind the scenes on Battle Brothers, I am quite practiced with Battle Brothers. It's one of the longest running things, the most videos on the channel. I've had the most experience with doing it. So I'm happy with the audio. Let's say I've listened to it all through and I'm quite happy. So we're going to come to the end of this file. They don't match up. So we're going to just trim it there and there. Now obviously this will go straight into the next bit, but we want to do some kind of filter to show that we're changing it. I like to have, well, all of my filters are preset. So we're having a fade in on the audio, we're having a fade in on the video, we're having a fade out on the video and a fade out on the audio. Now this will be pretty much standard for all of the clips. We can adjust the duration. Obviously for the audio it's like a 15th of a second or something like that, or 0.15 seconds. This is about half. Now there is a little bug in it at the moment that it goes from 1 second to just under half a second. I think we're pretty much going to leave it like that. Now because I'm going to be using this filter throughout, we're going to copy that into the clipboard, and now we can just paste that into the next one. But now when we do this, that fades out, hello, and it fades in. It's not a very long fade. You can do much longer, much shorter. Obviously, these settings are completely at your mercy. But we are ready for the next little bit now. Obviously, there wasn't much of a lead in between, so we can just click remove on those. Now, this whole section, obviously, we've done a lot of walking around recently, so our guys aren't. So I'm quite happy with this audio as well. There are no gaps. There is nothing else really to look at. But I think we should be able to take these goblins on. So I didn't trip over my words or anything like that. So this bit, don't have to edit it. The first pass has given us a good section. So we can just paste that in. We can double check. Them on. Fade in, fade out. Obviously we've done a lot. We're ready for the next bit. I'm going to carry on until I find a little bit that I want to show you about. Okay, as you can see, the video length, it's gone from an hour and a half down to an hour, just for the little blank bits that we've cut out. Obviously, with our second pass, it's a little bit more detailed, so we are looking into the audio a little bit more. So, this bit, we've got a nice long audio file, but we can see it's a little bit broken here. Now, I didn't do this on purpose, this just happens sometimes. You kind of trip over what you say. So, this is the end of it. To Kelborg, we'll come back for anything. So obviously I kind of lost my train of thought, what I was saying, so we don't want that bit. This bit here, we'll come back for anything. Again, kind of trailed off, didn't really think what I was saying, that's fine. This bit, I think, if we could adjust there, we'll come back for anything exciting as usual. So that is what I actually wanted to say. I don't know why it took me 3 attempts to say it. We will just delete this, we then rebuild the audio file. Now, we've got to check that this sounds okay. If we had cut it too close, it would suddenly jump from one thing to another. We'll come back for anything exciting as usual. Now, to me, that sounds a little bit stilted, but it's not too bad. So we're going to leave it at that. We can polish it, and it won't be that much different. There is maybe a millisecond gap. We could fettle it, but we're not going to. We're just going to trim this down to the size it should be. We're going to lift that, careful. We will apply our filter to that as we have been going all along. And yeah, that is just kind of rebuilding the audio. It's kind of easy. Sometimes, if you've got a noise that you want to cut out, you can do it either with a mute or with jumping it out, or you can just rebuild, like we said, there, just a sentence. So we're about 20 minutes into the video now. We've still got about 50 minutes to go through. Obviously, we're going to lose some more. One thing I forgot to mention, sometimes with shotcut, you do get crashes. So it's a good idea to either hit save or use the save shortcut every time. I think that is good practice for whatever you're doing. So I've got an interesting bit here to look at as well. I've clipped it down. I obviously wanted to say something different. I have already joined it up. And Raiders. This should finish. I do seem to raise my voice slightly. I don't know why I do that. To balance it out, we can go in and add the gain filter. If we want to make it louder, we go up. It'll be super loud. If we want to make it super quiet, we can go the other way. And Raiders. Obviously, that's far too much. We want to make it a little bit more subtle. So if we go to 3, and Raiders, this should finish us off. We'll go a little bit more. 6, let's have a try. Raiders, this should finish us off nicely. That seems much better. Oh, must remember to do the filter there. So we're doing all right. We have nearly finished. We're down to 42 minutes. That seems a bit more reasonable than an hour and a half. On the very next scene, I've left a bit of a loading screen on. So I started speaking early. We don't really want that. So we could apply a bigger fade to it, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut a little bit of this dead air out. We'll move this up, And now we can go back to the start. We can use the arrow keys to get exactly on the red line and then cut the top. Now we have got that queued up the same, and now we've got no loading screen. Excellent, we've cut that off. So just here, we've got a nice break. I obviously missed this on the first pass. This is the reason for a second pass. We're going to do a cut here. This is me shouting for my son to turn his phone down. You can just about make it out on here. Obviously, with our sound filter, we did our noise reduction. That has taken most of it. But I don't want me shouting randomly halfway through a video. So we will cut that bit out. There we go. We do need to apply our filter there. Yes, you can. Asher, so that seems to measure up okay. Again, little gaps like this I'm not so worried about, but that was quite a big one. Okay, so that is the last part. This is the final edit, and obviously there are some big gaps here. But it's just me back for that next time. Wrapping it up. So I'm going to tidy this up, and then we'll come back. So there we go, I have cut the gaps out, I've taken the bits I didn't want to say out. I kind of wanted to say thank you to all subscribers here, seeing as I've mentioned some subscribers by name. Unfortunately, because I'm recording for the behind the scenes, I couldn't do that straight away. I could go back and do it, but I think we'll leave that for now. So anybody that watches the videos right to the end will know I add an end card to the end of my videos. I actually edit this into the video itself. I'm going to do that process now. But to do that, I need an extra row for the video. So at the minute, we've only got one bar of video. We're just going to add a second one in. So I have a selection of graphics that are kind of in my art elements folder. This one is the one for the Battle Brothers series. So all we do, like we did before, we drop it in. Now this wants to be about 20 seconds long. We can just extend it out, and it gives us how long that piece is. 20 seconds is the length for an end card for a YouTube video. So I try and make everything about 20 seconds. We then push it right to the end. We want to cut it at the start. There we go. Now, obviously, we're jumping from one to the other. We want this video to appear in this little window here. We have to move it round. So we're going to cut that. We're going to drag that up. And I'm going to paste in the other piece. Now, when it plays through, we've already got. There you go. There was a little bit of a flash. That's because we've got two bits joined together. So we need to apply our filters the same. But I don't want the sound to change. I want the sound to carry on. So whereas normally we paste this in and it fades the audio out, I don't want that to happen. So we're going to remove that completely. On the end here, we are going to do the same again, but obviously audio in. We want to remove that. At the end of the videos, I like to leave it a little bit longer on the fade. So we do a full second. We do the same with the video. But obviously this is still taking up the full screen. I had another filter, size and position, and I have a preset. You can move it around and size it with the pointer. But on the preset, I use the end screen there. It puts it to the exact size. I don't have to remember all of the numbers. You can write them down. Before I realised you had a preset, I carefully worked these numbers out one at a time and got it so it was the same every time. Now that it fades from one to the other. Obviously, it's not fading on the end card screen. So we need to apply our filters to that as well. There we go. Delete that because there's no sound on this bit, so we don't need any sound filters. But we do want it to be a second long. That you can adjust these by dragging that out. It's got a little window there. You drag it for as much or as little as you want, or you can adjust it by the numbers. There are lots of different features for this. We do a bit of a save. We'll have one last check that that's working. Check the arm we've already got. Yeah, that's fading in and out quite nicely. Obviously, YouTube will apply the latest video here. It will apply a playlist here. Obviously, I tell it to use the Battle Cult playlist, I think it is. And it will put our subscription icon here. Obviously, because that's all done by YouTube, when you click on the videos, it takes you straight to the video. When you click on subscribe, it subscribes. All useful stuff. Then all we need to do is export this. Just check we've saved it. There we go. So we are exporting file. These are all of my files. Some of them are like just music. Some of them are future series that might appear. We call it BC30. I call it upload. That way I know it's the finished product. I've got to upload it. Yeah, there's some previews there for what's coming. Okay, so it is compiling now. We've got our jobs list here. If you've got a powerful rig, you can actually compile several videos at the same time. I have got a fairly good rig, but for some reason, I don't know whether it's a bug with the actual shotcut, when you try and rework another one, it kind of crashes and stops this working. So obviously we're ticking up. This is 4% done. It shows us an average duration that it might take. It might take less than that. Obviously we've lost quite a bit of it already. So now I've got a fairly meta thing to do of editing a program about editing. Because I've left big gaps in between the bits I want to say on the Audacity file and the bits that are going to be used, when you do your first pass, you can see that there is a large gap in the Audacity, and then you can just cut to that point. It makes it a lot easier for your preliminary sweep. Doing that really does speed up the process. Obviously, the filters I use in this, very basic. Sometimes I apply little pictures to videos or little arrows pointing at certain thing. It's done it in a very similar way to we've done. We just use a filter to position it in the correct place. We can fade it in different ways as well. Obviously, my channel is still very small at the moment. If this has been an instruction to anyone, I really hope it has. There are a couple of people that have asked me a few tips and tricks on how I do things. I hope this has shed a little bit of light on that, and I hope it will help you out as well. So this has just been a bonus one. We always have the little awkward bit at the end where you ask people to like your video, or leave a comment, or even subscribe if they want to. If you're a small channel like mine, every single like, every single comment, and especially the subscribers, they help out no end. So every single one of my subscribers, I'd like to say thank you very much. If you watch every video that comes out, massive thank you to you. If you watch just the ones that interest you, again, thanks very much. If you're watching this and you have liked it, you know what to do. All that YouTube nonsense. But for now, I've been the Bristly Stranger. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time.